They're fast. They're definitely not politically correct.
Bada boom, realest guys in the room. How you doing?
Welcome back, Husker fans, to another episode of the Blackshirt Alert Show. I am your host, TK. With me, as always, is Greg.
Hey, everybody.
Greg, what a game.
What a game.
Now, before people get all twisted and everything, I gotta say, just because the first half didn't go so well, we ended on a very high note, and it's very encouraging.
The fourth quarter was beautiful. Everything before that, we can forget about that. That fourth quarter, Trav, was excellent football.
I really love our defense, and I cannot say it enough. This defense, in my opinion, is really, really good. I love the way they're playing.
I can't wait to see him against the Oregon offense, Trav. It's gonna be
a great test. I have a couple concerns. It's Oregon, so they're gonna have a lot of speed. Can we match up on the outside on defense? That's, in my opinion, that's the question.
Well, they're gonna have a lot of speed. They're gonna have their neon uniforms. But I think we can, Trav.
Now, Greg, we're a 3-point favorite right now, as of us recording this, and I feel pretty good about it. In fact, I'm saying if you're a betting man, I put money on it.
Well, you're right, Trav. You do, and I'll tell you what. I think if this game was in Oregon, I bet you they'd be a 3-point favorite. I think it's that Memorial Stadium crowd that earns us that status as a 3-point favorite.
The fans got to come to play. It's not just the players that are important. The fans got to bring it too.
Absolutely. I need everybody in that stadium to, you're going to have every defensive down. You have to give it all you have vocally.
There's a saying when you tailgate: be loud, be proud, go Big Red.
Yes, sir.
And I really want the crowd to just be on their feet, yell, curse if you have to, just do anything to, interrupt the offense. That's what the home crowd's for. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be loud. We're supposed to be brash. We're supposed to let it out. It's,
and the thing about
they're bringing an inexperienced quarterback to Lincoln. It's time to, rattle this cage. Let's rattle this cage, Lincoln. Let's do this.
Let me just run this past you, Trav. The last two games Oregon have played at home, they have not sold it out. This is a stadium that holds 54,000 people. They have not sold it out. They're going to be coming into a hostile Memorial Stadium in front of 90,000 plus people. Trav, promise you, they don't know what they're in for.
Greg, one thing that Oregon likes to do is they like to mock schools with tradition. And they can say what they want. But one thing that tradition brings you is fan support. And, we have it. They don't. Like you said, they hold not even 60,000 at their stadium, and they can't even sell it out.
Right.
So,
Trav, when I just got to get this off my chest, Trav. When you look at Oregon,
mm-hmm.
you're looking at a good team. Okay, we can't sit here and rag on them. They've been in the national championship game, twice since 2011, Trav?
Yeah.
Okay, they're a good team. But I'll tell you what, Trav. They're not a team that's built on the backbone of a winning tradition like Nebraska. They're built around flashy neon uniforms.
Right. They got the Nike brand, in Eugene, Oregon.
Everybody loves
Yep. It's
Eugene, Oregon. The people, they love the green shirts and the neon yellow. Okay.
They love the Nike. We get it. That's not tradition.
Okay. Trevor, we have Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Taylor. These guys are names on the side of the building.
Right.
What they have is a flashy uniform. Maybe I'm wrong.
You're not wrong, but I will say I do respect them for their recent, conference championships. I myself would love to have a few.
They're great. There's no denying that. Success, they have been very successful.
Success has been
We
good to them
cannot
lately.
deny it. It's been good to them lately.
Greg, let's
But
get into a couple things real quick.
I just think, yeah, go ahead, Trav.
One thing I want to talk about is, we're still trying to figure out who we are identity-wise. Now, the first game of the season, we don't even pass, 11 times? We passed 10 times, I think, total, or something like that.
Yep.
This time we come out and we throw like 40 times. So, it's a little bit confusing, but I'll say this. The slow starts have to stop because starting out slow is probably not going to get it done against a fast strike offense like Oregon.
Trav, do you think that maybe Mike Riley has held back the playbook a little bit?
I don't think he's held back as much as it is dialed it down a little bit. Like, he's not holding back in the sense that he's, holding the players back from being successful. I do think he is dialing it down to maybe keep some of the things up his sleeve. Like, we haven't really shown a lot.
That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe he has more tricks up his sleeve. Maybe we haven't seen.
I hope
maybe
that's
we've
the
only
case,
seen.
just because.
Yeah.
This team. Like I said, I love the defense. Like, they're going to get a good test. We're going to see what this defense is really made of before I can say that this defense is, going to be the backbone of this team. But one thing we do know is we do have a good offense. It's just, can they put together, quarter after quarter of good, solid football? They haven't done that yet, but hopefully they can, this Saturday.
Yeah, you have to just kind of wonder if, maybe it's going to take, not every team comes jumping out of the gates on fire. So we've had some great second halves the last two games. It could just be a situation, Trav, where 3 games into the season, maybe that's what it took to get this whole thing tuned up. You know what I mean?
Right. And we're going to dive more into this game when we talk with Lincoln Journal-Star journalist Steve Sipple later on in the show. But one thing I do have to say is, we have to be proud of what we're seeing. Now, it's okay to, be a little bit fussy during bad plays, but, sometimes, social media, they rag on these teams and,
yeah.
It's, when you lose to bad teams like we did last year with Purdue, some of it is justified. I get it. We shouldn't lose to teams like that. But, when they make bad plays, don't act like it's the end of the world, guys. As long as we're winning, what's there to complain about?
Trav, you're exactly right. Tommy Armstrong took a lot of heat for that interception pass, and that was not a good decision. There's no way to sugarcoat that, Trav.
Right.
But for that one wrong, there was so many rights, Trav. Maybe I'm wrong.
Greg, he's a damn good quarterback.
Yeah.
He's got the tools. He's got the athleticism. So far I like what I see. I just want to see some better decision making. And if that's being critical, then I'm critical. But I'm also trying to be a realist. And I think this team is capable of a lot. But in order to do that, they have to play smart. And the penalties have to stop. Like, we did okay in the first game. We had a few penalties. But this last game, it's just, there was laundry all over the field. And I'm tired of it. Is it too much to ask for some clean football in Lincoln?
No, you're not wrong, Trav. You're absolutely not.
We struggled with penalties under Callahan. We struggled with penalties under Bo. We're struggling with penalties under Riley. Is it a coaching issue? Or is it a Nebraska issue? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. But the penalties do have to stop because when you play a team like Oregon, when you play a team like Wisconsin, when you play a team like Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, you name it, Iowa. They're already good enough. You don't need to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
So play smart, keep your head in the game, and it's not that hard to not commit penalties. It isn't.
You have to think that coaches addressed this week, Trev.
Oh, I'm sure they did, and I'm sure they
Yeah.
they went through the basics, and a lot of it is fundamentals. And I know that this coaching staff likes to teach fundamentals, but at the same time, it's like, you got to have a certain level of concentration to avoid that stuff, and hopefully they can get that ironed out. It is only the second game of the season, so hopefully, in this third game against Oregon, everything will be okay. But like I said, Greg, I feel pretty good about this game. From what I've seen, like, Oregon has their problems, both offensively and defensively. I haven't seen too many areas on our team where I'm like, ooh, I don't know what we're gonna do here.
Yeah.
I think from running the ball, I think we've been pretty solid. Tommy's been pretty solid passing the ball. He's made a couple mental errors, but he's still doing really good. The defense is playing really good. They're basically, Greg, what it boils down to is Oregon they got a great running back.
Yep.
Can the Blackshirt stop him? That's what it's going to boil down to. Can we match up speed-wise on the outer, on the edge? Can we match the speed of Oregon? We will know what this team is made of after Saturday.
Absolutely right.
And, we have a very special guest, Lincoln Journal-Star, Steve Sipple, is going to be on. And pretty pumped about this because, Greg, when you think of Nebraska football coverage, and I might be a little biased because, I've followed Steve for a while. He's the best. That's just my opinion.
I don't think it's an opinion. I think that's just stone cold fact, Trav. Ladies and gentlemen, when you think about Nebraska Cornhusker football, you think of Bob Devaney, Tom Osborne, Memorial Stadium, multiple national championships, and you think of our very special guest tonight, making his first appearance on the Blackshirt Alert Show, the Husker football genius, Steve Sipple. Steve, sir, thank you.
I think you overbilled me a little bit there. And I appreciate. It's great to be on with you guys.
Well, we appreciate having on. I gotta say, Sip, my friends always ask me, they come to me for their little football info, and I say, look, I just take it from Sip. So you're my go-to guy.
That's nice of you guys. You guys are too kind, and I listen. I appreciate it. But there's a lot of good writers out there.
Well, I think we have the best on our show, and man, we're just so grateful that you could be on our show. Steve, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to ask you this question straight up. How impressed are you with this year's team so far, just 2 games into the season?
I'd say it's been interesting. I've been, I'd say, reasonably impressed, especially with game 2. Now, I understand Nebraska was up by just a touchdown going into the fourth quarter of that game. But I also understand that Wyoming's pretty good. I mean, Wyoming, if you watch that, I watched that video of Wyoming, Northern Illinois, and I figured they're going to give Nebraska a little bit of a battle. But see, I mean, then what happens? Nebraska pours it on, ends up winning 52-17, and in the context of what you see nationally, you see Clemson struggling with Troy, you see Georgia struggling with Nichols. You see Northwestern losing 2 straight games to what you'd figure would be inferior competition. And then you see Nebraska taking care of business. I don't know. I guess I'm pretty impressed. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect, but there's not a lot of teams that are perfect this time of year. There's some bugs that need to be worked out. And what you hope what any coach hopes is that your team. I mean, no coach wants their team to peak in week 1 or 2. You know, you build toward that, and that's what I think that's what Nebraska's trying to do.
Steve, it looks like Oregon has a pretty good team, but what the general thought is they seem to be having some issues with their defense. How do you see the Huskers offense stacking up against the Oregon defense? And do you think Mike Riley, his plan is going to be attacked by air or by the ground?
Excuse me. I think Nebraska, I'm not saying that they'll just go with the Foster Farms Bowl blueprint, but I think they'll start by trying to run it at Oregon and play some ball control, right? I mean, I think that makes the most sense. And I think they can. I think they can do that. I think, to answer your question, I think Nebraska's offense stacks up very well against Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oregon's got I think the best way to put it is I think Oregon has an ordinary defense, and I think Nebraska has a very good offense. I don't know if it's great, but it's very good. And I don't think I think it'd be disingenuous for me to come on the show and say Oregon's got a very good defense. I mean, Oregon ranked 116th nationally in total defense last year. Kind of was a train wreck. Now has changed systems. I mean, went from obviously a 3-4 to a 4-3, and we know from firsthand experience how difficult transitions like that can be.
Right. Steve, you know, we're with a 4-year starter at quarterback in Tommy Armstrong, and he still seems to be making those first-year mistakes, you know, throwing the ball and, you know, receivers that are just covered to the max. And it seems to me like a 4th-year starter shouldn't necessarily be making those decisions at this point.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. It's an interesting conversation, isn't it, with Tommy? I mean, he did make a few decisions, a couple against Wyoming that were questionable. Of course, we all know the one, and of course, on the next possession, after that 1st and goal at the 5, the next possession, he almost threw a pick 6, and that was probably just as bad a decision, really.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other side, though, you look at those final numbers. You look at Tommy's final numbers, and they look pretty good. And if you look at his statistics through 2 games, they look pretty good. You know, he's completing 57% of his passes, or nearly 57%, and four TDs, 4 TDs and 1 pick, and then, you know, good yardage total. So, and then they're 2-0. So, right. I mean, it's kind of, and he makes a lot of plays. You have to give him that. He makes some throws that, I mean, the throw to Westerkamp, the touchdown throw comes to mind. The throw actually to Alonzo Moore in the opener comes to mind, but also there's a 3rd down throw in the red zone against Fresno State where he dodged a rush in who almost got a hand on him, took a side step, threw against his body on a 3rd and 8 to Alonzo. It's just throws like that a lot of guys can't make. So you do take the good with the bad, and you just hope the bad isn't too bad. And I personally, I hold out hope that Tommy going forward, let's put it this way, I don't rule out that Tommy will be a better decision maker going forward. I'm not convinced that Tommy hasn't. I don't think Tommy's reached his peak, and that's what you're looking for as you go forward.
Right. It's just, to me, like, the kid's got all the talent in the world. Like, he's unbelievable athleticism. It's just the decision making is where it's holding him back from being that next notch player.
That's exactly right. But if you talk to just about any quarterback coach or offensive coordinator, what they're looking at from that position, what they want, number 1 is good decision making,
right,
and number 2 is accuracy. And he's not, hasn't been great in either of those areas. But again, there's a lot of guys. I mean, there's guys in the NFL right now that don't if you turn on the game on Sunday, if you turn on several games on Sunday, you'll see bad decisions by quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And also you'll see quarterbacks that have gotten a lot better. Trevor Siemian comes to mind. Tyrod Taylor comes to mind, 2 starting NFL quarterbacks. So I think you just got to hope that Tommy continues to improve. He's still got time.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, let me ask you a question here. Earlier today, you were on 93.7, and they asked you what I thought was a really good question. They asked you which team has more to lose in this game.
Yeah.
And you ended up saying that Oregon maybe slightly has a little bit more to lose.
Yeah.
You know, if we look at Oregon, it seems like there may be a team that's maybe ascending downward a little bit. Maybe the Huskers are on their way up. Do you still think Oregon has more to lose in this game?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, because they've achieved a lot of late.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a team. This is a program that's been in 2 national title games since January of 2011. It's pretty recent.
Yeah, right.
And I think that I do feel like they have more to lose. I think if they lose this game, the heat gets turned up on Mark Helfrich pretty quickly. I don't know that I'd say that about Mike Riley. I hope not. I mean, I don't think that'd be fair in year 2 to do that to him in a situation like this, playing a team that has the reputation that Oregon has. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, now listen, I'm not suggesting that Nebraska doesn't have anything to lose, but I just believe that the next step for Nebraska as a program isn't beating Oregon. It's winning the West. It's winning the West Division, and that has nothing to really, I think it has little to do with this game as long as you play well.
Right.
You know, you don't now if Oregon comes in and thumps Nebraska, that could, then you could say, yeah, that's going to affect Nebraska's confidence going forward, and that would, of course, affect the division race. But I don't, as you can tell, I don't foresee that happening. I think it'll be a close game. So I really believe that Oregon has more to lose.
Yeah. Steve, we all know the story of Riley and spending his time in Oregon. Do you think Mike Riley may be thinking a little bit, kind of look at me now, now I'm at a place that has more resources than, Oregon. And do you think, is this game personal to Mike, or is he just thinking business as usual?
That's a good question. I have a feeling that it's a bit personal, but Mike's too classy to ever go there.
Yeah.
But let's face it, it is what it is. I mean, Oregon won 7 straight games against Oregon State in Mike's tenure there. All right, 7 straight. They averaged 45.6 points in those games. 578 yards. Oregon was the one with all the the program with all the resources. It kind of became a bit program nationally. So yeah, I'm sure that he felt like he toiled in their shadow a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think any competitor in that situation would probably feel some of that, right? Where it would feel a little bit personal. He's a competitive guy. So yeah, I think now again, Mike's not going to say that.
Right.
And I don't know that any of those coaches would ever say that. Mm-hmm. But I can't believe it. There's not that element. They probably feel a lot of different things, and that's probably part of it.
Sip.
Yeah.
Through the first 2 games, who were some players that have stood out to you?
Oh, I guess, guys. See, here's the interesting thing now is we get to see so much practice that there's nothing really there's nothing that's totally surprised me, except I'd say Kyron Williams on defense. I would go to Kyron Williams on defense. He's played much. I don't know. He's never played as well as he has on regular downs. He hasn't played a lot of regular downs, and he's really playing well on regular downs. Ross Zuris, who it seems like people always want to push him out of that defensive end spot. They doubt that spot in general at Nebraska, and he just keeps making plays, keeps making tackles behind the line, leads the team in that area, led the team in that area last year. Those would be two guys on defense. On offense, I can't say that anybody has really surprised me. There's not really anybody. I mean, we saw so much. I expected, some people might say, what about Alonzo? No, Alonzo had a good camp. He looked good in August. I'd be kind of surprised if Alonzo wasn't doing what he's doing, Alonzo Moore.
Right.
No, there's nobody I'd really say that surprises me.
What
on offense?
What exactly does the Blackshirts have to do to keep Oregon's offense in check?
I mean, there's a lot. There's a long list there. I mean, I think it has to start with Freeman, and the reason I say that Royce Freeman is because I think he's the best player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, okay. So you have Freeman to deal with, but you also have elite speed on the perimeter. Now, I don't think you have elite players on the perimeter, so there's a distinction to be made. I think you have elite speed, but I don't think there's elite players out there. I think they're good. They're good. They're going to put points up on Saturday, but I don't think they have an elite quarterback, but I don't think they have elite receivers, but I think they do have an elite running back.
Right.
But I'll tell you what now. See, this is why I think this is a good matchup for Nebraska, because they're a pretty good run-stopping team. This is a little different animal, okay? The way they go about it will challenge Nebraska. They spread you out, and then boom, they'll hit you up the middle with that great running back. So there's a lot of it'll come down to Nebraska being very assignment sound, even more so much more so actually than against Wyoming. But I think Nebraska's well prepared to stop the run.
I think you're right. I've really been impressed with our rush defense. To this point, it's been pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, that guy, the Wyoming running back, is a good running back, and he just couldn't get much going on the key down. He couldn't get much going on first down, and then you saw on third and short they couldn't get much going. Now they got the fly sweep going, which is a concern as Oregon gets ready to come here. They had some alignment problems against the fly sweep, and the quarterback got loose, I think, once or twice. But and Prukup can do that; he can get loose. But I'm in a regular offensive situation. Nebraska's really good defending the run.
Steve, a lot of Husker fans online, or there's some vocal fans that they're a little upset that we're not in the top 25 yet. You think if we beat Oregon, we'll go ahead and get into the top 25, and that might set off a big run going up until we meet Wisconsin?
Yes. Short answer is yes. I mean, I think, as you can kind of tell probably by talking to me, I like Nebraska's chances in this game.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then you really, really, really have to like their chances against Northwestern, which I got to admit, I picked Northwestern in the preseason to beat Nebraska in that game. But I mean, everything is fluid. And right now, I mean, I wouldn't say that now. I mean, I really like Nebraska to go to that Northwestern 3-0, get to 4-0, beat Illinois at home 5-0. Now, where we might be a little different is that Indiana game. I think it's really up there. I mean, I think that game is difficult. Although I think Nebraska again matches up well, because I don't think Indiana could stop Nebraska. But if Nebraska were, it's kind of like this game at Indiana, I think, where if Nebraska went to Indiana and turns it over a few times, then you're in trouble, of course, because Indiana has a lot of quick strike ability. It's a legitimately good offense. And actually, Indiana has a better offensive line than Oregon. And, they're explosive. And then the other thing, I don't want to dwell on Indiana too much, but I will say this, too. Every coach is worried about a game like that, because you're going to an atmosphere that's not much of an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And And that's something that gets overlooked a little bit. People think, well, it's easy because it's quiet. No, that becomes a problem sometimes because, you got to generate your own energy. And if you don't start well, that can be a problem, as we saw at Purdue. Nebraska was lifeless at Purdue last year. And that kind of phenomenon can be actually difficult. And Indiana's like that. It's just not much of an atmosphere.
Yeah. Sip, so maybe I'm overly optimistic here. I'm just going to ask, do you think there's any chance that we could show up at Wisconsin, a top 10 team, top 15 team?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. And there you go now. Now I'm going to contradict myself a little bit because, that there is a lot riding on this game in that regard.
Right.
Because it's a momentum game, and you can generate a lot of momentum going forward into some games that are very, very, I mean, you're going to be favored against Illinois. You're going to be favored against Indiana. You're going to be heavily favored against Purdue. So yeah, there's a very good chance Nebraska gets on quite a run now as we go forward. But as we saw last year, guys, you can't get too confident. I mean, it's precarious out there. Just look at nationally. So you can't get too far ahead. I mean, you can, I guess, and I can, but that team can't get too far ahead of itself. Right.
Sip, do you think that this team can actually handle the pressure of success?
That you know what? That's a great question. That's why I like doing these things. That's a very good question. And how do you know? How would anybody know that? I mean, how would Nebraska handle, being 7-0 or whatever? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7-0. How would anybody know how they handle it? I mean, it's just, I don't know how they would. They have some pretty level-headed. They have a big senior class, right? Mm-hmm. With some good veterans. Now, there's some evidence that would suggest. You know what the evidence is? This is kind of interesting. Now, that's a good question because it made me think about something. The evidence that they might handle it really well is actually how they handled losing last year, where they stayed on a pretty even keel. I mean, you saw how you guys think about how you felt after the Purdue game. All right. Think about how the world must have felt to those guys. But then think about how they reacted. And think about how the coaches didn't react, meaning no panic, okay? Even keel. That's what I'm getting at here. But one thing you can say about this staff is it managed that situation really well. And they did it by not changing anything. No, I mean, they kept pushing forward. At that point, Mark Banker told me in the offseason he did notice that's when players started looking the coaches in the eye more. All right? But the coaches didn't change anything. So the coaches are going to stay on an even keel, and isn't that the key, whether you're having a lot of success or you're really struggling? I think it's staying on track, staying with the course that you're on.
Yeah, I agree. My biggest critique of the Bo era was whenever they got a little momentum, they cracked under pressure.
Yep. I wrote it a lot. I wrote that basically a lot. It was such a roller coaster. There were such wild mood swings, right? And and I think some of that is, I think Bo would acknowledge himself that, he wasn't, Bo's not really an even keel type guy. He is to a certain degree, but, and I'm not really being critical of Bo in this, but with Mike, I think that age works in his favor in a lot of ways. Now, people will try to use it against him, but I think in a place like Nebraska, where there's so much emotion and the potential for such wild mood swings, to have a guy like Mike that has such an even temperament and has seen a lot in life, I think it's one reason he fits this place pretty well.
Well, Sip, I mean, I've pretty much got all my questions in. You've answered them, as good as they could have been. And Greg, do you got any questions?
Sip, I'll tell you what. We just can't thank you enough for coming on. It sounds like you have a cold, so we don't want to keep you any long. We've already kept you too long, but I'll tell you what, guys. Steve Sipple, the man with the best job in Nebraska, man, just thank you so much for giving us your time.
Well, Greg, I appreciate that. And Travis, you guys ask great questions, and I benefit from a deal like this. So anytime, you made me think, and I actually really appreciate that.
Oh, no, we appreciate you having on. I feel like we have a Husker legend on our show. That's how much you mean to us.
I do.
Well, that's nice of you. I appreciate it. It's nice of you guys to say. I do appreciate that. And we appreciate you having the Journal Star on, too.
Oh, yeah. Journal Star covers Husker football, just in my personal opinion, probably a little biased, but better than anyone in the country.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're on to something there, to be honest.
You guys do
a really good job.
Man, thanks, Sip. Man, we've had some Husker legends on here, but I don't think I've been more nervous than to have Sip on here, Trav.
He's right up there, man. I'm telling you, this has been a great time. I love talking Husker football. So, Sip, thank you so much, man. So, Greg, we heard it from the man himself, Mr. Sipple. Couldn't thank him enough for coming on the show. The guy knows everything.
Absolutely incredible. What a journalist.
What a journalist. And, whenever we can get someone like Sip on the show, it's, we take it very serious. He's a great guy. Like I said, whenever I, need to know something about Husker football, I pick up the Lincoln Journal-Star.
Absolutely, man. I'll tell you what. If you have an opportunity to get Sip on your show, you take that opportunity, Trav.
Greg,
the guy couldn't be nicer. So humble.
One thing he talked about, and I really can't emphasize this enough, is, when I asked him about can this team handle the pressure, he said that's the question.
It is.
And he made a very logical point when he said that last season this team could have just buckled and gave up.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after that Purdue loss. And, I mean, no one was probably more critical from a outside perspective than the Blackshirt Alert Show after that Purdue loss.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and listen to our show after Purdue, we were pretty upset, Trav. Everybody was, though. But, I mean, we, how upset we were, it's recorded. I mean, you can go back and listen.
That was right after the game. That was a fresh take right after the game reaction.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we had former players on. We had
Eric
Warfield, Phil Dillard, and, I mean, one thing is
upset.
They were upset, rightfully so. We were upset, rightfully so. There's no excuse to ever lose to a team like Purdue. Now, I'm not ragging on Purdue. I mean, yeah, I am, but it's Purdue. One thing is, we're just having a good time. It's the Blackshirt Alert Show. Guys, if you have anything that you'd like to chime in on, ask us questions. We'll get them out. It's been a blast. Mr. Sip, thank you so much. Guys, this is the Blackshirt Alert Show. Let's talk about the game before we leave. What is your prediction for the Oregon game?
Well, before I give you my prediction, let me just say, if you guys have any guests that you want us to talk to, let us know, and we will try our best to get a hold of them. Right, Trev?
It's just a matter of putting it out there, and if they say yeah, they'll be on. So, guys, if there's someone that you want us to interview, if there's a question you want to ask us, let us know. We can, we will do our best to get whoever it is that you guys want to hear from. Whatever Husker great, whatever Husker player, whatever former coach, anyone that you guys can think of, we will work our tails off to get them on the show. That's our job. That's what we like to do. It's Husker football. So, Greg, what do you have to say about this Oregon game?
Trev, it's going to be tough. I don't think we're going to blow them out. I don't think they're going to blow us out. It's going to be one of those games, Trav, that probably goes down to the fourth quarter. And you know what? Those games, I love them and I hate them because, you're just sitting there, your heart's beating out of your chest. And
they're fun to watch, but they'll give you a heart attack. They'll put you in the hospital.
They're fun. Exactly. I think if this game was being played in Oregon, Trav, I'd give them the edge. But because it's a Memorial Stadium, I don't see how we can't win this game by, a field goal, maybe a touchdown. The thing is, I don't know if it's going to be a high score. It's one of those games, Trev. I don't know if we're looking at a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game. So,
Greg, give me a score prediction.
30 to 33, somewhere around there.
Okay.
What are you thinking, Trev?
Greg, I'm going to sound like I need to go to the loony bin.
Oh, boy.
Honestly, I'm going to say that Nebraska wins 38
oh boy.
to 27. And
I like
Oregon scores pretty much in the last 2 minutes to make it even that close.
Wow. So you think the offense is going to click those first 3 quarters?
I do. I think our defense is going to be stacked from the beginning. I think they're going to come ready to play.
Yep. No doubt about that.
It really just depends on how the offense can respond to adversity. I think the defense, no matter what's, going to keep us in it. I really do, and I think this is going to be Tommy's coming out party. I think he knows that he has to show the Husker fans that he is an improved player. I think the big guys, I think they're ready. I think they're ready to be put in a position to be successful, and it's it's time to see what this team can handle when the pressure's on.
Bingo.
So, Greg, I think that's our show.
Awesome show. And, man, we just cannot thank Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star enough, Trav.
Guys, let us know your score predictions. Blackshirt Alert Show. Go Big Red. Signing off. Guys, let's beat Oregon.
Yeah, they're loud, they're fast, they're definitely not politically correct.